5 minutes, it sounds like nothing. Barely enough time to make a cup of coffee or scroll through a few posts. Yet 5 focused minutes, used wisely and repeated daily, can redirect the next 5 years of your life. I learned this truth the hard way. For a long time, I treated time like loose change, spending it on whatever caught my attention. I would open my eyes in the morning and immediately reach for my phone, letting headlines and messages decide my mood. Evenings drifted by in a blur of screens and half-finished thoughts. I kept waiting for a big break, a dramatic event that would lift me into the life I imagined. But years passed and nothing big arrived. What finally changed me was not a giant leap, but a small decision. I would carve out 5 intentional minutes each day to think about my future. Just 5. At first, it felt almost silly. How could 5 minutes matter? But I set a timer, sat with a notebook, and asked myself one question. What kind of life do I want 5 years from now? The first day I scribbled a few scattered ideas. Healthier, more stable finances, deeper friendships, meaningful work. The next day I added details. After a week, patterns emerged. Those 5 minutes became a quiet meeting with my future self, and they began to change my present choices. Think about it. 5 minutes is short enough to start today without excuses. It's long enough to plant a seed in the mind and seeds grow while you sleep. The power lies not in the length of time, but in the focus you give it. Most people never pause to design their lives. They're too busy reacting to the urgent. 5 minutes of deliberate thought each day moves you from reaction to creation. Let's explore 3 areas where 5 intentional minutes can create a ripple that lasts for years. Vision, decision, and connection. First, vision. Without a clear picture of where you want to go, you drift. I once heard a pilot say, 1 degree off course can put you miles from your destination. Life works the same way. 5 quiet minutes each morning to picture your preferred future acts like a compass reset. You don't have to map every detail. Just imagine, where do you want to live? How do you want your body to feel? What kind of work makes you alive? What kind of relationships surround you? When you revisit that vision daily, it sharpens. Your subconscious begins to notice opportunities that match the picture. A chance conversation, a book suggestion, a new skill to learn. Suddenly you see them because your mind is tuned. It's like buying a red car and then noticing red cars everywhere. The cars were always there, your attention simply changed. Second, decision. Each day brings dozens of small choices that shape the years ahead. What you eat, how you spend, who you call, whether you move your body or stay seated. 5 reflective minutes help you decide before the world decides for you. I use this time to set 3 priorities for the day. Not a long to-do list, just 3. These priorities become anchors when distractions pull. Over months, those daily choices accumulate into a life direction. Here's an example. During my 5-minute morning pause, I realized that my energy dipped mid-afternoon because I skipped breakfast or grabbed sugar. I began to prepare a simple, healthy start to the day. That single adjustment lifted my focus and productivity, which in turn affected my work and income. Small decision, long ripple. Third, connection. Relationships shape our destiny more than we often admit. 5 minutes can strengthen them in powerful ways. Imagine spending that time each evening sending one thoughtful message, thanking a friend, encouraging a colleague, checking on a family member. Over a year, that's 365 small touches. Over 5 years, that's more than 1-800 moments of care. Friendships that might have faded become strong because you chose to invest a sliver of time. 5 minutes can also be the difference between conflict and understanding. I recall a tense disagreement with a business partner. Instead of firing off a quick response, I set a timer and spent 5 minutes breathing and writing what I truly wanted from the conversation. By the end, my anger cooled and clarity returned. The next day, we resolved the issue with respect. Those 5 minutes saved a partnership and the projects and income tied to it. Perhaps you're thinking, I'm too busy even for 5 minutes. I understand, but ask yourself, how much time do you spend scrolling, waiting for an app to load, or standing in line? 5 minutes is already slipping through your fingers many times a day. What if you reclaimed just one of those slips and used it to shape your next 5 years? The magic isn't in the clock, it's in the consistency. One intentional 5-minute practice repeated daily is more potent than an occasional hour of frantic planning. Consistency compounds. A single dollar saved daily becomes hundreds, then thousands. 5 minutes of focused reflection each day becomes 30 hours of deep thinking in a year. Time most people never give themselves. You might wonder what to do during these 5 minutes. Here's a simple starting routine. Find a quiet spot. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Breathe deeply and ask, what matters most today for the life I want tomorrow? Write whatever comes. No judgment, no editing. Some days you'll fill a page. Other days you'll write a single sentence. The point is to meet your future self and listen. Soon you'll notice that the practice spills into the rest of the day. You'll start catching yourself before impulsive choices. You'll speak with more intention. You'll spot connections between today's actions and tomorrow's results. Those tiny adjustments, guided by 5 mindful minutes, become the architecture of the next 5 years. I think back to a conversation with an older gentleman I met on a plane. He told me he had built a thriving business, raised a close-knit family, and stayed healthy into his 70s. When I asked his secret, he smiled and said, every morning I spend 5 minutes asking myself, what kind of man do I want to be when this day ends? Then I try to live that answer. 5 minutes. A lifetime of direction. So here's the invitation tonight. Before you sleep, set out a notebook and a pen. Tomorrow morning, before reaching for your phone, give yourself 5 minutes. Ask, what do I want 5 years from now? What can I do today that leans in that direction? Do it again the next day and the next. Because 5 minutes can pass unnoticed, or it can quietly rewrite the story of your life. 5 minutes. It still sounds small, almost too small to matter. Yet the real transformation begins when those 5 minutes become a daily rhythm, something you protect even when the schedule presses in and the mood is tired, because the secret of change is not in the first spark of excitement, but in the steady flame of repetition. When I first committed to my 5-minute practice, I assumed enthusiasm would carry me. And for a while it did. New pages filled with fresh ideas, but enthusiasm fades. Travel disrupts schedules, late nights steal mornings, and the temptation to skip just this once arrives like clockwork. One morning I was already running late for a meeting and told myself there wasn't time. Then I remembered something a mentor once told me: discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. I set the timer anyway. Those 5 minutes calmed my thinking and sharpened my focus for the rest of the day. That small choice kept the habit alive and reminded me why it mattered. 5 minutes of daily attention can quietly reshape the next 5 years in 3 essential ways: by clearing the mind, sharpening action, and deepening relationships. Your mind is like a lens. Without regular cleaning, it clouds with dust, news, worries, opinions that are not your own. 5 quiet minutes each morning work like a cloth on that lens. I often ask myself 3 simple questions. What am I grateful for? What matters most today? And what fear must I release? Sometimes I write full paragraphs, sometimes a single line. Over months, those questions rewired my thinking. Gratitude shifted me from scarcity to abundance. Focusing on what matters cut through the clutter. Naming fear shrank it until it lost its power. A friend of mine, a busy physician, laughed when I first suggested this ritual. But after a few weeks of 5-minute pauses, he noticed that difficult decisions at the hospital came easier. He was calmer with patients, clearer with staff. His colleagues noticed before he did. That is the compound effect of daily clarity. 5 minutes also improve the quality of action. Each morning I use the time to set 3 priorities for the day. Not a long to-do list, just 3 things that, if completed, move me toward the vision I hold for the next 5 years. Without this practice, it's easy to confuse motion with progress. Days fill with minor urgencies, emails, trivial errands, endless meetings. But with a 5-minute plan, the vital few rise above the trivial many. During a season when I was writing a book while managing a demanding job, these quick planning sessions helped me carve out 45 focused minutes of writing before work. It didn't feel dramatic, but 8 months later, the manuscript was complete. People called it discipline. I called it 5 minutes of intention repeated every morning. Habits are like interest. Small deposits grow large with time. 5 minutes of deliberate direction each morning can create thousands of productive hours across 5 years. Relationships, too, flourish under the care of a 5-minute practice. We intend to stay in touch, to encourage, to listen, but the noise of life steals those good intentions. I end most evenings with a small ritual. I send one thoughtful message to someone I value. It might be a quick note of appreciation, a memory, or a simple check-in. Over a single year, that becomes more than 300 moments of connection. Over 5 years, it is more than 1,500. Friendships that might have faded instead grow stronger because of those consistent touches. I have used these minutes to repair strained relationships as well. When tension rises, I pause, breathe, and ask what outcome I truly want and what the other person might be feeling. More than once, those minutes have turned potential conflicts into honest conversations and lasting trust. Protecting these 5 minutes requires intention. Tie them to something you already do so they become almost automatic. I sit in the same chair by the window every morning, notebook and pen waiting. That small, welcoming space is a silent invitation. When I travel, I carry a pocket-sized journal or use the Notes app on my phone. No matter where I am, I keep a simple minimum standard. Even on the busiest mornings, I will sit for at least 2 minutes. 2 minutes keeps the chain unbroken, and most days 2 stretches back to 5 once I begin. Continuity, not perfection, is the real goal. Now imagine yourself 5 years from today if you simply guard these minutes. Your mind is sharper because you have trained it to focus on what matters. Your actions are more effective because you have planned them with purpose. Your relationships are richer because you have invested in them consistently. Opportunities that once seemed accidental now appear inevitable because you have aimed your life like an arrow. This is not fantasy, it is arithmetic. 5 minutes a day equals over 30 hours of focused self-direction every year. Multiply that by 5 years, and you have more than a week of concentrated thought. Time most people never give themselves. A businessman I know began this practice when he was drowning in debt. Each morning he spent 5 minutes reviewing his finances and choosing one small action: call a creditor, cut a cost, learn a new skill. In 5 years he was debt-free and running a profitable company. He told me it wasn't the big paydays that saved him. It was the daily 5-minute decisions that kept him from quitting. Tonight you can start the same way. Before sleep, place a notebook where you will see it in the morning. Tomorrow, before you reach for your phone, give yourself those 5 quiet minutes. Ask yourself, what is the most important thing you can do today to honor the life you want 5 years from now? Write it down. Act on it. Repeat it tomorrow. Protect those minutes as if they are gold, because in a very real sense they are. 5 minutes defended and repeated is not just a habit. It is a quiet revolution that can rewrite the story of your life. 5 minutes. By now, it is no longer a novelty, but a steady companion, a daily pause that begins to shape everything else. At first, the habit feels like a small pebble dropped into a still pond. But over weeks and months, you start to notice the ripples, the way they spread across every corner of your life, touching things you never linked to a simple morning pause. Momentum is gathering, and momentum is a quiet force. Once it starts to roll, it carries you farther than you expect. When I had practiced the 5-minute habit for a year, I began to notice something subtle but powerful. My days no longer felt random. There was a through line, a sense of direction that held even when the schedule was crowded or circumstances were messy. Decisions that once felt heavy started to feel almost obvious. People asked if I had discovered some new system for productivity, and I would smile because all I had done was keep a 5-minute appointment with my future every morning. Those minutes sharpened my instincts, and instinct saves enormous energy. One unexpected benefit was financial clarity. Before the habit, I lived like many people, letting money flow in and out with only a vague sense of where it went. During one morning pause, I wrote the sentence, "Money is a tool, not a mystery," and something clicked. I began using a few of those minutes to glance at my accounts, to write down what I spent the day before, to imagine where I wanted to be 5 years ahead. That small awareness turned into consistent saving, then into thoughtful investing. and eventually into a sense of calm I had never known. Nothing flashy happened, no sudden windfall, just a gradual strengthening that compounded because I paid attention for 5 focused minutes a day. Relationships deepened too. I had always valued friends and family, but the business of work often pushed connection to the edges. The 5-minute practice gave me a daily reminder to reach out. Some mornings I wrote a name in the notebook and promised myself to send a message before nightfall. It might have been a simple thinking of you or a note of encouragement or a question that invited real conversation. Over time, those touches built a network of trust and affection that has carried me through hard seasons. What began as an item on a page became a natural rhythm of care. The habit also taught me how to handle conflict with more grace. When tensions rose with a colleague or a friend, I used my 5 minutes to breathe and ask what I truly wanted from the relationship. Instead of reacting, I reflected. More than once, those minutes saved a partnership or a friendship that might have been lost to quick words. 5 quiet minutes gave me the power to pause, and the pause gave me wisdom. Another ripple was health. Early on, I wrote a note to myself, "A strong future needs a strong body." That line nudged me to make small choices, taking the stairs, drinking more water, going for a walk after dinner. Nothing dramatic, nothing that required a gym membership or a grand plan. But day after day, those small choices added up. I had more energy, clearer thoughts, better sleep. The 5-minute habit did not just guide my calendar, it guided my appetite, my movement, my rest. Some mornings I used the time to practice gratitude in a deliberate way, listing 3 things I appreciate right now. At first, the list was obvious. Family health, a roof over my head. But as the weeks passed, I noticed smaller blessings. The sound of rain on the roof, a stranger's kindness, the feeling of warm sunlight on a cold day. Gratitude changes how you see the world. Scarcity fades, abundance grows. And when you see abundance, you act with more generosity and less fear. The habit even sparked creativity. Because my mind was no longer clogged with the urgent, ideas had room to surface. I began to capture them during those quiet minutes, business concepts, story ideas, solutions to stubborn problems. Many of those scribbles have become projects that now shape my work and income. It's remarkable how often a breakthrough arrives when you simply create a little space for it. People sometimes ask how to keep the habit alive when life gets messy, when travel interrupts, when illness strikes, when schedules explode. My answer is to shrink the practice, but never skip it. 2 minutes is enough to keep the chain unbroken. The point is not perfection, but continuity. Once the routine is woven into your identity, even a brief version preserves the momentum. I have done my 5 minutes in airports, in parked cars, even standing quietly in a hallway before an early meeting. The location doesn't matter. The decision does. Environment helps. I keep my notebook and pen in the same spot, a small corner chair near a window. That visual cue invites me every morning. When I travel, a pocket notebook rides in my bag. Consistency is easier when the tools are ready and visible. And I always end the practice with a single action I will take that day to serve the life I imagine 5 years from now. It might be sending an email, reading a chapter of a book, or simply speaking a kind word to someone close. That small bridge between reflection and action keeps the habit from becoming mere daydreaming. 5 years may seem distant, but the days pass quickly. Think of where you were 5 years ago and how fast that time slipped by. The next 5 will pass just as quickly. The question is not whether they will pass, but who you will be when they do. 5 deliberate minutes a day can draw the outline of that future and quietly fill it with color. A friend of mine adopted the habit after hearing me talk about it over lunch. He was skeptical but curious. Now, 3 years later, he credits those daily minutes with helping him lose weight, start a side business, and repair his marriage. None of those changes happened overnight. They unfolded because he met himself each morning with intention. If you worry that 5 minutes is too small to matter, remember that water shapes stone by persistence, not force. The Mississippi River carved valleys not with one great surge, but with endless gentle flow. Your life is shaped the same way. Consistency beats intensity. Direction beats speed. 5 minutes of conscious direction each day will take you farther than sporadic bursts of effort ever could. As you read this, consider the compound effect of such a habit. In a single year, you will spend more than 30 hours in focused self-reflection. In 5 years, that is over a week of pure, undistracted attention to your own growth. Most people never give themselves even a fraction of that time. You can. So tomorrow, when the alarm rings, let those first moments belong to you. Sit quietly. Breathe. Ask yourself the questions that matter. Who am I becoming? What do I value today? What small action will move me toward the life I see 5 years from now? Write a line or two. Then carry that clarity into the world. You will be surprised how such a small appointment can rewire an entire future. 5 minutes faithfully kept is not a pause in life. It is the engine of a life you truly want. Keep showing up. The years will reveal what those minutes have built. 5 minutes. By now, the habit is no longer an experiment, but a quiet part of who you are. What began as a small daily pause has become a trusted companion, a signal to your mind and heart that the day belongs to you before it belongs to the world. And as the months pass into years, you start to see how those minutes have been sculpting the life you live. The changes might not be dramatic on any single day, but together they have redrawn the map of your future. I remember looking back after 5 years of keeping this practice and being almost startled by the difference. My finances were steadier, my relationships richer, my body stronger, my work more meaningful. There was no single grand event that created those results. They came from thousands of small choices clarified by those 5 deliberate minutes each morning. The practice did not make life perfect, no habit can, but it made me resilient and purposeful in a way that chance never could. One of the deepest gifts of the habit is the way it teaches you to listen to yourself. In a noisy world, self-listening is rare. During those quiet minutes, you begin to hear the subtle guidance that gets drowned out by notifications and demands. Sometimes it is a gentle nudge to reach out to a friend. Sometimes it is an idea for a project or a whisper to rest when you would rather push. Over the years, I have come to trust that inner guidance more than any frantic plan. The 5-minute meeting each day is where I practice hearing it. Those minutes also refine the art of decision. When a new opportunity arrives, I rarely have to wrestle with confusion for long, because I have spent so many mornings clarifying my values and direction. My yes and no come with more confidence. I once turned down a lucrative job offer that would have meant constant travel and little time with family. Friends wondered why I hesitated, but I already knew that freedom and presence mattered more to me than a bigger paycheck. The clarity came from years of 5-minute reflections that kept my priorities in view. Relationships, too, mature under the quiet influence of this discipline. Over time, I have learned that love and friendship are not maintained by occasional grand gestures, but by small, consistent acts of care. Because of the habit, I remember to send the message, make the call, write the note. I notice when someone's voice sounds tired, or when a colleague's eyes reveal unspoken worry. 5 minutes of morning intention turns into 1,000 moments of kindness that build a lifetime of trust. And when storms come, as they always do, those relationships become a strong shelter. Health benefits keep unfolding as well. Early in the practice, I wrote a reminder to myself, a strong future needs a strong body. That sentence has quietly guided countless decisions about food movement and rest. I have not become an athlete, but I have become consistent. Walking, stretching, choosing water over soda, going to bed on time more often than not. The result is steady energy that supports every other goal. The habit does not demand perfection, only direction, and direction compounds. Perhaps the most surprising outcome is the way 5 minutes have nurtured creativity. Ideas arrive more freely when the mind is uncluttered. Many of my best concepts for work, writing, and personal projects have surfaced in those first quiet moments of the day. What once felt like occasional flashes of inspiration now feels like a reliable stream, because I have given creativity a place to speak. You may wonder how to sustain this for a lifetime. The answer is to treat the practice not as a task, but as a relationship with yourself. Relationships need renewal. Every few months, I refresh the routine. Sometimes I change the location. Sometimes I shift the questions I ask. I might focus for a season on gratitude, then on strategic planning, then on spiritual reflection. Variety keeps the habit alive while the core commitment remains unchanged. 5 minutes of intentional presence every day. There will still be interruptions, illness, travel, unexpected demands. That is why I keep a minimum standard. Even on chaotic days, I pause for at least 2 minutes. 2 minutes keeps the chain unbroken and reminds me who I am. Often those 2 minutes stretch into 5 once I begin. But the point is simply to show up. The practice is not about perfection. It is about faithfulness. Look ahead now. Imagine yourself 5 years from this moment if you begin or continue this daily meeting with your future. Picture the compounding effect over 30 hours of focused reflection each year, more than a full week of deliberate self-direction over 5 years. Most people never give themselves even a fraction of that time. You can. And those hours will quietly rewrite the story of your life. Think of the opportunities that will find you because you are clear about what matters. Think of the relationships that will deepen because you have invested steady attention. Think of the financial stability, the personal growth, the creative projects that will blossom because you have met each day with purpose before the world demands its share. The next 5 years will pass whether you claim these minutes or not. The question is who you will be when they have passed. I often recall a conversation with a grandfather who had practiced his own version of this habit for decades. He told me, I gave myself 5 minutes every morning to remember what kind of man I wanted to be that day. Now I'm 80, and those minutes have become my life's true wealth. His words echo the heart of this practice. Ordinary time, faithfully offered, becomes extraordinary treasure. So tonight, as you set down your phone and prepare for sleep, place a notebook or a simple sheet of paper where you will see it in the morning. Tomorrow, before the world reaches for you, give yourself those 5 minutes. Breathe, ask the questions that guide your heart. Listen for the small voice that points you toward the person you long to become. Write a line or two. Carry that clarity into the day. Keep showing up. 5 minutes, repeated with devotion, will outlast the strongest burst of motivation. It will carry you through seasons of busyness and doubt. It will quietly shape the next 5 years, and if you let it, the rest of your life. In the arithmetic of destiny, 5 minutes multiplied by every sunrise is enough to build a future you will be proud to live.